Random House Audio presents The Will to Climb, Obsession and Commitment and the Quest to Climb Annapurna, the World's Deadliest Peak, by Ed Viesturs with David Roberts. Read for you by Fred Sanders. To my loving wife Paula, who is with me in my thoughts and in my heart, step by step, moment by moment, as I lived my dream of reaching the summit of Annapurna, my 14th 8,000-meter peak. And to our children, Gilbert, Ella, Annabelle, and Nina, our constant source of love, warmth, and entertainment. Mountains are not stadiums where I satisfy my ambition to achieve. They are the cathedrals where I practice my religion. Anatoly Bukreyev. There are other Annapurnas in the lives of men. Maurice Herzog. Forward. In July 2009, I found myself climbing Mount Rainier, the huge, snow-covered 14,411-foot-tall volcano in Washington State, with Ed Viesturs. I wasn't exactly sure what I was doing there, but before our 2-day ascent was over, I'd realized that getting to the top of that mountain would be the hardest physical, emotional, and mental challenge I'd ever faced. In a sense, I'd been sandbagged by Todd Lewicki, the CEO of the Seattle Seahawks at the time. Ed, who lives on Bainbridge Island just outside of Seattle, is a passionate football fan. Before the 2005 season, Todd and his staff had been brainstorming to find a local celebrity to help connect fans to the Seahawks. Todd had been to one of Ed's charitable talks, so he suggested, how about Ed Viesturs? The upshot was that Ed gave a motivational speech to the Seahawks just before their first game. Later that season, for another game, he was designated the team's 12th man, whose duty is to raise the Seahawks' 35-foot-long flag up a pole overlooking one of the end zones at Quest Field. That was the year the Seahawks made it all the way to the Super Bowl. Ed had arranged for all the players to receive miniature carabiners, devices symbolizing the teamwork of climbers roped together, after each victory. After the contest that clinched the NFC West division title, the team gave Ed the game ball. After the Super Bowl, the Seahawks also gave Ed an NFL championship team ring. The relationship between mountaineer and football team resulted in Ed's guiding Todd up Mount Rainier in the summer of 2008. And though he found the climb a stern challenge, Todd decided to repeat it the following summer with a new cast of characters as a fundraising event for a local charity, the United Way of King County. Todd had talked Jim Mora, the Seahawks head coach at the time, into joining the team. Then, one day, as I was about to start a league meeting in Dallas, Todd said, "Roger, one quick question. Will you climb Rainier with us to help our local United Way?" "Sure, no problem," I answered, then turned my attention to the meeting. It was only some time later that I took stock and thought, what did I just do? I'd never climbed so much as a big hill before, but I'd certainly seen Rainier rearing its massive bulk nearly 3 vertical miles above Seattle in the southeast. Nevertheless, I was determined to go through with it. In early July, we all met at Paradise, the trailhead for Rainier. Besides Mora, Lewicki, and me, there were several local community leaders and 4 professional guides led by Ed and Peter Whitaker, co-owner of Rainier Mountaineering, Inc. It was as a guide for RMI that Ed got his start as a climber in his early 20s. By July 2009, he'd climbed the mountain a remarkable 203 times. Rainier was obviously a piece of cake for Ed. In 2005, he'd become the first American to climb the 14 highest mountains in the world, all without bottled oxygen. He's still the only American who's pulled off that feat. And just 2 months before our rendezvous at Paradise, he'd climbed Mount Everest for the 7th time. I trained for the climb by running in my neighborhood with a loaded backpack and jogging up stairwells in New York City, carrying weights in each hand, but nothing prepares you for altitude. Ed and Peter put us through our paces, training us on how to carry our ice axes, how to self-arrest with them if we slipped and fell, even how to walk on snow in a way that minimized our exertion. I survived this initial challenge, although one of my fellow climbers dislocated his elbow. The first day we went from Paradise at 5,400 feet to Camp Muir at 10,000. It's a grueling ascent, but essentially just a hike. The real climbing starts above Muir. That night we slept in prefab huts and planned to get up shortly after midnight to set out for the summit well before dawn. Ed and Peter had stressed over and over again the importance of keeping hydrated. I think I drank almost 2 gallons of water that evening. That meant I had to get up frequently during the night, clamber down from my third-tier bunk, put on all my clothes, and go outside to relieve myself. Even in the dark, the view was stunning. I could see other giant mountains in the distance, including Baker, Adams, and St. Helens. After a while, I gave up trying to sleep. Coach Mora and I just stayed up and stared at the magnificent vistas before us. A cameraman who joined our team to shoot the climb for NFL Films caught my exchange with Peter Whitaker at 12:30 a.m. on summit day. Peter asks me, "Roger, how do you feel?" I answer, "I feel good. 0 sleep." What I remember saying, however, and what must have been cut out of the film, was, "I feel like crap. Why do you care?" We took off by 2:30, roped close together in groups of 4 with our guides in the lead. For the first time in my life, I was wearing the metal spikes attached to my boots that climbers call crampons. I was feeling a combination of anxiety and confidence. I would have been happy to start even earlier. I wanted to get going. As we started up, I thought, this is like playing golf with Tiger Woods your first time on a course. I'm definitely out of my league. Yet I was moving along pretty well, until we suddenly bumped into a crevasse that ran smack across our path. One thing I've got to chide Ed and Peter for is that during our training they told us all about the dangers of avalanches, falling rocks, and altitude sickness. Peter almost morbidly described the 1981 accident when a collapsing ice cliff snuffed out the lives of 11 climbers at a place right on our ascent route. I'm not sure I needed to hear that little story. But they never said a word about crevasses. It was still dark. I couldn't see the bottom of the crevasse. I just froze. Ed said, "You can do it." I answered, "Yeah, but what comes after this?" "It gets harder," Ed admitted. When I lifted my head to look upward, I saw the headlamp cones of climbers far above us. It seemed as though they were climbing into heaven. I thought, I didn't come up here to die. Ed and Peter were just standing there, staring at me. They were eager to keep us moving, but I knew they were worried about whether they could get me to the top after all. It was only later that I learned that this was the exact place on Rainier where the 1981 catastrophe had struck. The crevasse looked 20 feet wide. It was actually probably about 30 inches. I guess that my Type A personality kicked in then. Besides, I couldn't bear the thought of passing Jim Mora on his way down, boasting about having summited while I had turned back. Peter and Ed had just stepped over the crevasse. I definitely jumped it. A little later, the sun came up, and we could see everything. I'd never beheld a view quite so impressive. We clumped onward, and suddenly we were on the summit. We all cheered and embraced one another. Ed and Peter heartily congratulated me. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. Like Ed, I firmly believe that the lessons you learn from climbing a mountain translate into your regular life. On Rainier, I had to prepare meticulously, overcome fear and self-doubt, dig deep, and push myself. And I learned the incalculable value of good teamwork. If I'm roped to someone else and I fall, there's a good chance he's coming with me. All those lessons apply almost daily to my work as commissioner of the NFL. I have to prepare for many challenges and face a regular diet of adversity. I need discipline. I have to...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?